Hello, hello, and welcome to this week's episode of The Hard Choice Simple Steps for Showing Up. My name is Brad Draper. I am your host. I am grateful to be with you. I am grateful to share these messages with you. I'm grateful to be growing with you and how cool it has been to have this journey. And many of you have actually been along for the ride since the very beginning. It is wild to think it's been more than 2 years since these shows have started and have been rolling. And that's just so cool. I love seeing the growth. I love seeing trajectory and opportunity and choice. The choice to keep going, the choice to do these episodes, and your choice to keep stepping, to take action so the opportunity can take place because those thoughts precede those actions and those actions precede those opportunities. And what an amazing experience it is to have this ride. You are, after all, a sum of your experiences, and you get to choose those experiences. You get to choose the highs and the lows and what you extract from both of them because life ebbs and flows. But it is our choice to maintain that high energy and to choose to learn, to grow, to be dynamic because he who is most flexible is he who wins. I want to talk a little bit about that thing, choice. And historically, I did an Ironman. I've talked about this many times on the show, but there is a specific instance I've never really honed in on. One, when I made the choice to do an Ironman, and then two, a very specific instance during that ride, during that triathlon. I'll take you back. When did I do the thing? Man, I want to say I can't remember if it was may have been September 2019 or September 2020. I can never remember which year it was. I do believe it was September 2020. I got all messed up with COVID years. I'm pretty sure you do too. Was it before COVID, after COVID, or during COVID? It's kind of a time frame because that whole COVID time frame is a blur. Anyways, I was in the middle of Live Hard, phase 2, and I had made a choice, a conscious choice, effort, and intention to run a 5K every day for my outdoor workout. And I had accomplished, I was very far. I was day 25 or so of 5Ks every day. I was getting pretty good at running 5Ks for me and my size. And as I was finishing my 5K one day, I had a random thought. And this thought went a little bit like this. Why haven't you done an Ironman yet? And as you can imagine, I had a conversation with myself, which was my response, well, I don't know. They're big, scary, and I don't know if I can do one. And my immediate response again to myself was, you know what you need to do. Get to it. And so I had about 5 or so minutes left in my run, and I got home and I told my wife, hey, I'm doing an Ironman. Keep in mind it was September range. And she said, okay, when you doing it? I said, well, everything's shut down. There are no official Ironman races, so I'll have to make up my own. And I plotted a map. I said, I'm going to do it in April, May range. And then I proceeded to move forward. She says, what do you need to do? Well, one, I need to learn how to distance run properly. I need to learn how to swim outside of a doggy paddle. And I need to purchase a road bike and learn how to road bike efficiently. An Ironman or an Ironman distance is 2.4 miles swimming, followed by a 112-mile bike ride, and finishing with a 26.2-mile run. Stacking that all together back to back to back. And I started training for it. And I could not follow a traditional training schedule. Traditional training schedule for Ironmans is 4 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I just didn't have that. I was an executive for the laboratory at the time. And I was working obscene amount of hours. So I had to turn that into 2 hours a day. And I trained running twice a week, biking twice a week, swimming twice a week. And then I would do an Olympic triathlon every Saturday just so I can practice transitioning and I can practice going from one modality to another, one movement to another. And as I prepared for that day, I knew the track that I was preparing was flat. I gotta sneeze. My nose is stuck with a sneeze, man. It's annoying. So I trade hills. In that 2 hours, I would ride down and I would climb a couple thousand feet every bike ride. That way I was high intensity, acute time frame in preparing for these bikes. And then race day came. Well, ride day. It wasn't a race. And I did it with the Iron Cowboy James Lawrence. It was day 60 for him on his 101 Ironmans in 101 days, which is mind-bending. You wrap your brain around that feat. The swim was great. I actually swam somewhere in the 10 to 15 too many laps because my watch, I forgot to start my watch. And so I was paced wrong. I went way too far, which is kind of fun. And then I transitioned for the bike and things were going great. We were going along and I had asked my parents to be my SAG vehicle, which is the vehicle that carries all your extra necessities and your tools and your water and your drinks. And they will handle your bike and maintain its maintenance if something were to arise. So we had planned, okay, if you get a flat tire, we had brought 2 extra wheels, an extra front wheel and an extra rear wheel. That way we could just swap out and be right back on the road within about a minute or two. And I got a flat tire on mile 10. This Peloton, which is when bikes are lined up in a row, was doing about 22 to 24 miles per hour. We were going pretty quick. And I got a flat tire, mile 10. We pulled over, the van pulled over. We went to switch my tire, and we did not realize the width of the wheel on my replacement tire was wider than the first tire, or the first wheel. So instead of just a quick 1 or 2 minute swap out and then sprint to catch back up, it was a 15-minute recalibration of my brakes because I had rim brakes at the time. That's problematic when bikes are going that fast, 20 miles an hour, 15 minutes. They went about 5 miles in the time frame it took for us to switch out that tire. And my dad looked at me. He says, "You have a choice to make right now. You can either cruise at your own pace and catch up. You will never make it to the end and then just catch up to them wherever they're at in the marathon. You can back out and just meet them at the run. Or I can draft you," meaning I ride directly behind the van, right on his bumper. And he pulled me so I have no headwind, right? I'm just pedaling to my heart's content. I can pull you and we can attempt to try and catch back up. I'm not sure we will, but we can attempt it. And I sat for about 2 seconds because I didn't have much time to make said decision. I said, "I will draft you. We will catch up and we will finish this ride together." And so we started pumping because I didn't have the map. I didn't have a fancy Garmin GPS that told me where to go. I needed the Peloton to teach me where to go. But my dad had it on the GPS coordinates on his phone in the van, which he'd displayed up on the display in his van. So he knew where to go. I rode the bumper of that van for an hour. And during that time frame, I don't advise you to do this, by the way. It's highly dangerous and not legal. We ended up hitting 40 miles an hour. Because keep in mind, I had 5 miles to make up. They were doing 22 miles an hour. So I had to go significantly faster than they were going to catch up. It took me an hour to get up to them. I got up to them by mile, so it happened at mile 13, apologies, and I caught up to them by mile 23. It took me 10 miles to catch up to where they were at. And that came with an immense amount of effort, an immense amount of energy, and a true Herculean consumption. It was exhausting. And by the time we caught up to them, everybody in the Peloton was just jaw dropped. They were stunned that I caught back up. They thought for certain I was gone for the rest of the ride. But I caught up. And then as we were riding, you have to realize we were mile 23 out of 112 miles to go. I tried to brake, and so the purpose of a Peloton, the front bike breaks the wind for everybody behind them, and it creates a vacuum effect. And that vacuum pushes the front bike, and you can get up to really fast speeds in a Peloton, especially if the Peloton's very long. And the front person, when they're tired, they break away from the front and go to the back, and you just rotate just like geese. I tried to be in the front once, and I was unable to do so. I locked up so fast. And so I hung out near the rear and had these men and women pulling me along because I was so tired from the sprint for an hour. And we got towards the end. We got within about 5 miles or so from the end. And I was in the back and I had nothing left. It was a slight incline with a slight wind, and my legs were locking up, and I was falling further and further and further away from this Peloton. And it was one of those just watching your hopes and dreams just drift away from you. And as I was in that ride, another rider noticed me falling behind, and he broke away from the Peloton, and he rode back and he said, "I will pull you if you're willing to pedal." And I looked at him exhausted. I said, "I'm willing to pedal if you're willing to pull. I'm willing to fight if you're willing to fight with me." Because he just broke away from the Peloton that was helping him too. He also just did 112 miles at this point in time, about 107 miles on a bike. He was also very tired, but he pulled me in. I made it because of that man. And then we got back to the house. We changed over. And then not too much time later, we started the marathon. And it goes down in history that I finished my one and only, because it was a bucket list item, to show and prove to myself mental capacity, what you can do. But here's the thing that I really want to hone in on for this episode. I had to make a choice. I had to make a choice to do the Ironman in the first place. I had to make a choice to do all of the training in a different capacity than was normally scheduled. I had to make a choice to go on the track. I had to make a choice to continue, even though I swam too many laps to keep going. I had to make a choice to fight and catch up to the bike Peloton after I got a flat tire. I had to make a choice when given it again 5 miles from the end to continue fighting. I had to make a choice after all that to go do a marathon. I had to make a choice to keep fighting. It is because of those choices of keeping to fight, I made it to the end. Just like my Misogi, if you keep walking, at some point the sun will rise. You just have to keep moving and not stand still. You can't stagnate in indecision. If I'd sat in indecision, I made a decision to not move. Indecision is a decision. And it's the decision to do nothing. And in doing nothing, you receive nothing. And secondly, that was literally impossible without my parents. There was no way I can catch up to a Peloton moving that fast by myself. One, I didn't have the map. And two, there is no power on planet Earth I could muster. All the energy drinks in the world would not have got me to them. It wouldn't have happened. And then there's no way I would have made it to the end without the Peloton. There's no way I would have made it to the end without that other rider coming to pick me up and to pull for me. I was unable to accomplish that without my team, without others by my side. We were operating as a team. Without the team, you will flounder. And it is up to you to surround yourself with the right people. It is up to you to move forward in faith. It is up to you to make a choice. Are you going to fight or are you going to die? That's it. If you sit still, you will decay into oblivion. That is what I have for you. That's what I want you to ponder on. The trials, the tribulations, the hardships you're going through right now. Are you willing to fight? Because if you're willing to fight, I promise you, you'll make it. And how cool of a day that will be when you do. So share this episode with your friends and your family. Like me. Like this episode. Share it. Have conversations about it. It's the only way it grows. You can find me on social media, Mr. Brad Draper. Like this thing, subscribe to it, download it for future listenings. Until next week, I love you guys. Bye.